Hi guys, it's Rick Shiels down here at Quest Golf Academy here at Prairie Sports Village. I'm going to be testing the last 5 years worth of TaylorMade drivers from 2012 to right now in 2017. My good friends at Golf Bidder have sent me all of the drivers. There have been 20 drivers brought out in that period of time. Not as many actually as Callaway that brought out 24, but TaylorMade have brought out 20 drivers. And I'm going to test one from each of the years. So I'm going to test 6 of the drivers. So technically it's kind of 6 years, but not fully yet. So it's still a 5-year test. So I'm going to start with R11S, the first one we're going to test. Then we're going to move over to TaylorMade R1. Then we're going to go to the very popular SLDR driver. Then we're going to go into the R15, followed by the M1 from 2016. And to mix it up a little bit, I'm going to go M2 from 2017. All these drivers are in as close spec as possible. All at 9.5 degree heads. I'm going to be using the same shaft, the Aldila Rogue, with 5 of the drivers apart from the R11S, because the R11S just has a slightly different connector. So I've got a Project X 6.0 shaft in the R11S, but after that, every one of them will be tested in the Aldila Rogue. I'm going to carry out the test. I'm going to hit 10 drivers with every single golf club. I'm going to go 2 rounds of 5 shots each, so that I'm kind of splitting the wear and tear of me hitting them, really. The shots that count are shots that hit the fairway. So I'm going to imagine it's going to be a 40-yard fairway, and it's going to be the best 5 shots hit down that 40-yard fairway that's going to count towards the comparison at the end. The more shots a club hits on the fairway, it has got an advantage because the best 5 are still going to be used instead of just scrapping 5 down there. So I'm going to start off with R11S first. I've set all these golf clubs as much as I can neutral. So all of them have little functions and features, but I've set them all in neutral to get the best test within this. I'm looking forward to giving this a go. Stay tuned. What do you think is going to do it? What do you think is going to win? It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts down below. Try and predict right now. I'm also going to do the ping drivers as well. That's coming soon. And also comment what other manufacturers would you like me to do this 5-year test on. Right, R11S, I'm going to hit 5 Pro Vs, then switch over to the R1, and then switch round, and then have one more round, so we've got 10 shots from each. So the R11S, one of the first drivers that came out in white. It was very, very standout. It had the compass at the bottom, which you can adjust to have the face more closed or open at address. And it had the weights in the toe and the heel. And it was one of the first drivers as well with an adjustable neck, so you could actually tinker with the loft. Well, that is as good as they're going to get, I think, today. Okay, so that is the first 5 carried out with the R11S. I'm now going to switch over to the R1. So R1 wasn't massively different from the R11S. It still had the compass on the bottom. It was just a slightly bigger compass to have more of an influence. When I say compass, it's a dial that would sit the golf club more open or closed. Still had a weight in the heel, still had a weight in the toe, still had the adjustable sleeve, but the head didn't have a loft. So the actual sleeve that you placed in actually determined the loft of the driver, which I thought was very interesting at the time, very cool. And it's one of the crazy drivers that had this unbelievable graphic on the top, and that was helping with alignment, so to say. It was bold at the time, I'll tell you that. But I'll tell you what, it was a super successful driver. So I've now got the Aldila Rogue shaft in this driver, and I will do for the next few till I get back round to the R11S. There we go. Struggling to find the fairway a little bit then, but that last one has made up for it. Literally on the line. Okay, moving now into the SLDR, which came out in 2014. Super popular driver. Okay, so TaylorMade SLDR. This was the big loft up campaign. When this came out, this really did cause quite a storm because a lot of tour players won very quickly with this driver. As it got into the hands of the average golfer, they realised actually can hit it long, but controlling it was slightly harder. All about central gravity moving forward with this driver. And kind of really the pioneers within this category They pushed the weight as far forward as they could, made this sliding bar so you could put it in draw and fade, but it was ideal for ultimate distance and low spin. Let's give this a hit. So I've put this in a tiny bit more loft than the rest because that's really what it was about, all about loft up drivers. They were starting to see 13, 14 degree drivers with this. I can remember it not being as forgiving. That was definitely more erratic, but the long one was super long. Right, let's move next into the R15, which was very similar to the SLDR, but it just had 2 sliding weights at the front instead of the 1. So R15, this came out in 2015, back end of 2015 as well. And this was a modified version of the SLDR. They brought in an extra weight, but still kept the weight forward all the way to the front. So it's still a low spin driver. Just that with the 2 weights, you could separate them and give it a little bit more forgiveness. I've kept these weights fairly neutral in the middle. And the white head returned. This did also come out in a 430cc head, and it did come out in a black version as well. Moving into the M1. Now this is the 2016 model, so the first M1 that they brought out. Again, a step up from the SLDR and the R15. They continued with the weight at the front, but they also introduced the weight at the back to get more forgiveness and more variation between low spin and high spin. So again, I've gone neutral with both of these lofts, both of these weight positions. One of the other standalone features with the M1, and this was M1, M2, and the new M1 and M2, is it had this multi-material construction on the top. It's not only titanium, but it also had this carbon top as well, which gave this incredible white and black contrast on the crown of the head and really stood out from the crowd. It was such a big talking point when they brought that contrast out. So this is the M1 460. They also brought a M1 430 out this year as well. I've just got this in neutral. Let's give this a hit. So that was M1 2016. I'm now going to move into M2 from 2017. I thought I'd throw the M2 in the mix just to vary it up a little bit each year. This is the 9.5 degree head as well, similar to the rest. This had no adjustability on it apart from the neck. It's the only thing you can adjust. The weight sits a little bit further back in the head. It's got this more of a channel behind the face to help with that low spin, that fast ball speed. And it has the same head design as the M1 from 2017, but the difference between the 2016 and 2017 is that white border is just a little bit slimmer, and there's even more of a carbon back, which I actually really like the look of the back. Okay, so that is the first round of all the drivers, 5 shots with each. We're going to circle back again, go back to R11S, and then we'll have a finale of all the 10 shots. Stay tuned. I need to hit some fairways second time round. There wasn't many fairways being hit. Let's hit some fairways second time round. R11S back up first. Oh, 60 shots. Oh, knackered. Right then guys, so the results are in. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, what I'm going to do is take 5 of the best shots and use the averages from those. And that doesn't mean the longest, it actually means the ones that hit the fairway. So within that kind of 20 yard either side of centre line, they're the shots that are going to count. Now, all of them managed to hit 5 fairways. The one that was struggling the most was the SLDR. It seemed to only just about find the right amount of fairways. And the rest of them had 6 driver shots hitting the fairway. So out of the 6, we choose the best 5. So results are in. I'm going to go through all the club data first, just to show you how similar I was hitting every single one of these drivers in the same kind of specs and shafts. So down the left-hand side, we've got 2012 R11S all the way down to 2017 M2. The important column first to look at is head speeds. That's the average club head speed that I was presenting at contact with every one of the drivers. You can see there less than a mile per hour on average between any of the drivers I hit, from 110 miles per hour, 110.5 down to 109.6. So very, very similar club head speed I was presenting. You can also see there the path angles and the face to path angles and the angle of attack. Again, all very, very similar. Strike location there, top right as well. You can see the average of the 5 shots. Strike location was pretty bob on, pretty central. So that's just showing that the shots I hit were pretty similar throughout the test. Let's have a look at now the ball data. How much difference was there between these drivers? Because if we were led to believe what the marketing guys say, these drivers should at least be 10 to 15 yards further than the previous model. So we should be hitting it 40, 50, 60 yards further right now. Let's see if that's the case. So as we see on screen there, I'm going to go straight to the carry number because I think that's obviously the most important, and then we'll have a look at the reasons why there is any differences. R11S, the oldest one of the bunch, this one, which actually felt really good when I was hitting it. I like the feel of this one a lot. This was giving me a carry distance of 270 for a total distance of 289. The average spin rate there was 2,783 and the ball speed was 158. So that's the oldest driver carrying at 270. The second oldest driver, which was the R1, I like the feel of that. I just didn't massively like the look of it. It's really dated now with the design on the top. But I did like the feel of it. This was giving me an average carry distance of 269, the shots that hit the fairway. For a 288, very similar numbers than what I was getting with the R11S. 2,700 spin and 158 ball speed. Almost identical, the two older models, the 2012 model and the 2013 model. So then we move into the next 2 years. We have SLDR and R15. This is where we see a bit of a jump, certainly between these two and the previous two models. SLDR, possibly one of the most successful drivers TaylorMade ever made, carrying at 278. Now that is 8-9 yards longer than the R11 and the R1. It was the least controllable. The misses were big, but it seemed to, when it was hit straight, it was long. The reason for it being so long wasn't any extra ball speed, because we can see there it was still at 158. It was the backspin. The spin rate I was getting off this driver was 500 RPM less, which makes a big difference. And this is, again, the pioneer in this spin low. When they moved this track forward, they realized the driver was spinning really low, and then out came the big loft up campaign, if you remember it from 2014, and really even leaking into 2015. That was their big talking point with this. And it was long, and that's why so many tour players did so good with that driver. The R15, similar idea to the SLDR, it's just that we had 2 tracks, and we went back to the white head. This had similar carry distance at 276. Ball speed was just a tiny bit lower, only a mile per hour slower, if that, half a mile per hour slower. And the spin rate had just gone up again to 2,500, so not quite as low a spin. And you've got to remember, all these models are the 460cc heads. There were smaller head options in the 430cc options, which actually produced lower spin, but were even more unforgiving. So SLDR and R15, we definitely saw a jump up. Do we see as much of a jump up when we move from M1 2016 and M2 2017? The answer is no. The answer, we almost see identical carry distances again. In fact, these two drivers were very, very similar. We have 275 carry for both of the M1 and the new M2. Spin rate on the M1 was at 2,500. Spin rate on the M2 was 2,300, and both had almost identical ball speeds at 158 miles per hour ball speeds. Fascinating, really interesting. More adjustability as you move into the longer set, so I could move that centre of gravity forward or back on the M1, where the M2 was fixed. You couldn't really change anything at all. It just looked awesome from above. These two one of the best feeling driver, and for me, the best looking driver. I've always been a huge fan of the white and black contrast between the M1 and M2, and I love it still after all of the decades of, or the few drivers that we've tested there, and probably all of the drivers. For me, the M1 and M2 definitely looks the best. Did we see a bigger difference? Did we see that bigger difference? We saw a gradual step, or quite a steep step actually, from R11S and R1 to then SLDR and R15. There was a big step up there. Distance went up nearly 10 yards, which is pretty impressive. Spin rate dropped, distance went up. Forgiveness seemed to get a little bit more sketchy. Did the distance improve then from M1 and M2? No, but I actually found them a little bit easier to hit straight. So as much as they weren't as long, they definitely found it a little bit easier to hit straight. You've got to remember, all of these drivers, there is a limit of how fast the ball can come off the face. And that's why we've not seen any big, massive leaps of ball speed when I was almost always presenting 110 miles per hour club head speed. We weren't seeing huge jumps of ball speed because these driver faces are regulated. For me, there's a big thing. There's a driver that's going to spin low, it's going to get you more distance, but is unforgiving typically, certainly if you swing it fast. And then there's drivers that's going to give you more help, and there's drivers with less adjustability, which are going to be a lot cheaper. 20 drivers, and I reckon there'll be no difference almost between any of them. We saw a really good slice between the 6 drivers I tested today at TaylorMade, and we did see a step up at one point, but then it kind of plateaued out again. And I can remember that step up of the SLDR. It was a big leap forward, but it's kind of plateaued out again. Thanks to the guys at GolfBidder for helping me out with this driver. Also thanks to Sam Punchard, who's a local golf professional, because I just needed one more driver as well. He helped me out last minute, which was great. So GolfBidder and sent me all these drivers. It's great to test them. I'm now going to do the ping video. I might not do it today. I might have a rest. And then let me know in the comments below which brand you want to see next. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. What do you think of the drivers? 20 drivers. I don't think we see that much of a difference. It's a lot of the idea of marketing, but then also on looks, feel, and then the sound as well you get off a driver. I think that's more of a bigger factor. When looking for a new driver, look for one that you like the look of, back it up with some GC quad numbers, and then look at going playing with the driver and enjoying it. Guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. Is it what you expected, or did you expect differently? Thanks for watching. If you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button. Watch the Callaway video in the corner if you've not seen that already, and stay tuned for the ping video coming soon. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. I'm gonna have a relax, a coffee, a Red Bull at the same time.